What's up? It's Mark, and I'm back with another video because I said to myself, I'm going to be consistent. And your boy, 3 days in, but I'm consistent. Hopefully you're having an amazing day, and welcome to my YouTube. Hopefully this video sparks a conversation for you. Maybe you can resonate, all the things. I was in the gym today and I thought about a subject of coming out of the closet. And typically when we hear coming out of the closet, it usually talks about or usually is in response to somebody in a gay lifestyle or somebody that's gay. It's interesting that we don't really use that term for anything else other than gayness, right? And coming out is that moment of reckoning, especially if you're a gay individual. Like, it's that moment of truth telling. It's that moment of standing in your honesty. But a lot of things come with that moment that I don't know if people really understand. And I don't know, even as a gay black man, I don't know if I fully understand all of what comes with coming out. And in this video, I hope to express some points of the fact that people think coming out is a one-time thing. But as a gay black man, coming out is a repetitive act of courage. Coming out of the closet, it's like you come out of one closet to come out of another closet, to come out of another closet, to come out of another closet. It's almost as if the closets never end. But here's the crazy thing too. I believe that different groups of people who want to live an authentic life, no matter what that looks like, especially if it goes against the model of society or culture, then you're going to run into a coming out of the closet experience. But for this video, I'm talking about being a gay black man. My first coming out of the closet happened in the early 2000s, right? And I'm putting this in perspective of the time that I was in at that time, where the internet was, where access to information was. It wasn't really a big thing with social media. I think a few years later, MySpace and different things started to pick up, but we were in the dawn of social media. YouTube was around, but it wasn't really like a thing like it is now, where you can just look for information and search for people who are like you. You could search in a topic, how to come out of the closet. So it was still fairly new. And my situation happened where I believe I went to visit some family members that were in Florida. And I was dressed at the time that I believe was normal, but maybe it wasn't. It was a little, I guess, edgy, but in my high school, that's how everybody was dressing. I believe it was like my red little combo with my Converse. So had the white shirt on with the red shirt under. We was doing a lot of that back in that time, early 2000s, right? And I think I had maybe the socks on. They pulled up. I thought I was fly, and you got that little white shell beaded necklace. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And so that was just my aesthetic, right? And that was my flow. And I remember getting back home and my godmother she asked a question. She's like, somebody said something about you, and I want to know if that's true or not. And of course, my heart dropped to the bottom of my feet. I'm like, because I think as a gay person, you dread the day that you get confronted. It's like, as long as you can live in this illusion of everything is normal, you're good, especially being a kid and being young and not really having the language to articulate your feelings and emotions, and growing up in a church environment. And so she asked the question, and I lied at first, but the fear that came over me in that moment was so evident that even though I said something with my mouth, my heart actually, or my face rather, told the truth. And so, she was like, if you don't reveal it, God's gonna eventually reveal it. And I'm nervous at that time. I was like, oh God, it's like, get scared. I'm fearful. And so I decided to share that information with her. And honestly, I did think it was just gonna be between her and I. I just thought this was gonna be our little thing. And I think my frame of mind at that time was thinking, we were going to work through this together. Because even at that time, knowing this information about myself, this awareness about myself, I still didn't have a settled mind like I wanted to be like this. It wasn't any of that. I just knew this was the truth about my identity. I knew I struggled in this area, and at this moment I'm identifying it as a struggle. I no longer identify that as a struggle. And so I remember going back into the kitchen and I shared the information. I was like, you know what? It is true. And we talked, and that was the first time in my experience of openly admitting that, right? That's not to say I hadn't been accused of it before, but that was my first time like standing in some level of power, like, yes, this is who I am. And it felt good but scary, right? It felt great to say it out loud, to give language to it, to kind of feel that, identity, and, almost like, okay. And it's kind of like at the same time, you're still nervous because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be embraced and loved, accepted, especially by your family, right? And so that night, my godfather, who's my uncle, he got home from work, third shift. And, I kind of went to bed after that conversation, kind of relieved a little bit, like, okay, I told the truth. I got it out. And I thought, like I said, this was going to be between, us. And that morning when he woke up to take me to the bus stop, I knew she shared that information. And now looking back, I understand why. But I also, in that moment, was like kind of blindsided, almost like, because in my mind, I thought, it wasn't said that this was going to be kept between us. I just thought, because it was so delicate, so personal, I thought. But as an adult now, I understand that's information that you kind of got to share, and so she shared it, and it just did not sit well with my father, my uncle. It didn't sit well with him. A lot of things you can understand when you move into a different level of living and awareness and healing and all of that. So I'm speaking to and about in my perspective as a child, right? It's totally different now. And I was just so, you can imagine feeling like, imagine feeling like you just went from being at this place in life and your family dynamics, like, almost kind of like the golden child, the good child, the one that's going places, and then feeling like you are at the bottom of the barrel, like you're the scum of the earth. That was one of the most difficult seasons of my life. It was extremely difficult. There were so many times that I just locked my way in my closet at the time, because we were churchgoers. I was a church kid. I grew up in church, and I just remember that time feeling so hopeless and just praying to God, like, I want to be free. I want to change, because the premise of wanting to change is so that you can be accepted. And it's almost like, when people be like, well, you chose this. Why would somebody choose not to be embraced by their family? This is why a lot of men do things, and women as well, do things that don't even align with them altogether, because they want to be accepted, right? We do things as humans because that's a part of our wiring to have community. And so to be isolated from your community is not something anybody, I believe, sets out to do, because we need that, right? And so I did my best to change. Like, I'm a teenager fasting because I'm like, I gotta get through this. Talking to my pastor at this time, forgiving and going through. I was doing everything I knew to do, and it still was a rough time because there was no alignment with me. And it's like, I just didn't like myself at that time. I just point blank here. I didn't like myself. I struggled a lot. There was a lot of suicidal thoughts. There was a lot of things going on, and so that was my first time coming out. It was forced in a sense. It wasn't something I was ready to come to terms with altogether, but that was the first time. And the second time was another conversation that I had, where I stood in my power, and I was questioning, like, hey, you just posted something on social media and da 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 da. This seems to be like what you're kind of advocating for. And for the first time, I stood in my power and was like, well, yeah, that is what I'm advocating for. This is what I believe. So that was my second time coming out. So let's get to the premise of the video, right? I had to kind of build that intro. I was in the military. I was out, but I wasn't out. I was out in the sense of I made friends that were part of the community. And so I was out amongst them, but at work, I didn't talk about relationships or anything. I feel like people knew, but it just wasn't a part of that conversation. And so being in this space now at 37. Although I've came out twice, kind of officially, there have been other moments of coming out where you've had to have those conversations with close friends. I remember having a conversation with a close friend, like, this is what I believe, and this is who I am, you know. That being difficult. I remember having a conversation with a friend that she was, you know, starting to like me and develop emotions and feelings for me, and I had to literally sit her down and say, this is the truth, this is who I am. And so as a gay black man, even though I've experienced those moments of coming out, I still have that, how do I say, like, I still have to come out daily. What do you mean? Anytime that you're embraced by a new audience that loves you, that pulls you in and say, I like you, you're cool, you're dope. In the back of my mind, and those who can relate to what I'm saying, it's like, will you like me after I share my truth? I remember even my best friend that's still my best friend to this day. And, you know, we're on the phone. This is kind of the beginning of our relationship, and we're getting tight and we're getting close. And she was like, you know, I think it was kind of a conversation around, you know, I know you, Mark. I know you probably got all the ladies chasing you. You know, you're a nice looking guy, da, 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 da. And it's like your just stomach starts to bubble. It's like, do I lie? Do I go into the direction of lying about who I am in order to make sure that this relationship lasts, or do I tell the truth? And so coming out for a gay black man is reckoning with that truth consistently throughout your life. And there is, I don't know if many people will admit to it, there is still a fear. Even making this video, there's a slight fear. When I came out to my community that I lead, a spiritual community, there was a fear. When you embrace by a new audience or a new group of people, there is a fear. Will I be accepted for who I am? Because the truth is, my sexuality is not my identity, but that's a part of who I am. And so you have to be able to maneuver through these experiences of coming out consistently. And it's kind of like when I was in the gym today, I was thinking about that. I was like, man, I've came out multiple times, but there's still more coming out for me to do. And I don't know if I'll ever be comfortable, because the stigma, the trauma, the pain attached to being authentically myself is so deeply rooted in my DNA that sometimes I still fight against it. I'm very liberal. I'm very open. I'm very, you know, like I don't kind of live this DL life. I don't do any of that. My family now, in hindsight, are very open to me and my partner, my life, who I am. They've come to my home many times. You know, I don't feel rejected. I feel embraced. I feel loved. But you still, like, even with all of that, in the back of my mind, if I be truthful, if I be vulnerable, if I be honest, there's fear attached to the next time I have to come out. I sometimes stand in this power of, I'm going to be who I'm going to be. But still, in the back of my mind, there's a little fear. There's a little intimidation there. It's kind of like being right at the cliff before having to take a jump. It's like, I know I'm going to jump, but there's nervousness right now looking at the jump. And the nervousness that you're looking at is, will I be embraced? Will somebody throw a scripture at me? Will they hit me with the I love you but I hate the sin type of theology? Because to be who I am right now has taken so much work. I've fought to be who I am right now. But who I am right now is not the finished work. As a gay black man, that's particularly who I'm speaking to, because that's what mostly I can resonate with. You're going to be challenged on your manhood. You're going to be challenged in all these areas, and you have to continuously fight for your identity. And the crazy is, you have to fight for your identity even though your sexuality is not your entire identity. It's just a characteristic of who you truly are. Who I truly am is a human being. And my being encompasses the existence and the characteristics, but I am first a human being like you, like them, like whoever. But because of how this construct is set up currently, I have to fight to come out. Coming out is an experience that some people never have to walk through, because who you are has already been labeled as accurate according to the construct of culture and society. But for those of us who push against that construct to say, I am unique, I am different, I don't choose that, I choose this, or I'm not born that way, I'm born this way, or this is the path that I take, and this is the path that I want to fit in. There's a coming out that you have to endure consistently, daily, if you will. And I want you to be okay, as I'm learning to be okay with it being a little nervous at times, but you have to stand in your power, because you're fighting for the people that's coming behind you, so that it won't be hard for them to be simply to be who they are. But right now, this is the truth. That did feel good saying it out loud. And my intention behind this, I guess, is to come out again. And sometimes, even when you've come out, you have to remind people that this is who I am. Anytime that you feel the need to minimize and reduce your presence because it makes people uncomfortable, you chip away that courage. You chip away your experience. You chip away at that, your existence. Because you say, all of me is not worthy to sit in this room, to be in this environment. And what I've learned over the years and continue to learn is that any environment where I cannot fully be myself is probably not the environment for me. Any environment that I have to lie, if I have to feel like I gotta minimize, or I feel like I gotta fit a certain mold, that ain't for me. Why? Because I spent a lot of my life doing that. I spent a lot of my life being who people wanted me to be and never being authentic, coming home to Marc. Who is Marc? How does Marc want to show up? But it's a continuous fight. If you love content like this, hit the subscribe button, like this video, drop me a comment below, and connect with me. I have a community, a free community where you can hop on board. We host many mindset, motivational Monday Zooms at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The information to get connected to that is below. I would love to have you, to empower you, to inspire you, and for us to master this thing called life together. Until the next video, my hope is that you will continue to evolve. It's Marc Coley, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.